big fan of Diego Simeone's game management and his resourcefulness, which we've got to see with Savic getting a red card relatively early on, and Simeone making changes such as pushing Riquelme from left wing back to right wing back to actively adjust his team's tactics and salvage the situation. With that, let's get into it. So we start quite early on in the second minute with Atletico Madrid building up in this 3-2-4-1 shape. They have this box midfield versus Getafe's 4-4-2 shape, or 4-2-3-1, with Mayoral dropping to mark De Paul or Koke. Atletico Madrid's box midfield could rotate to more of a diamond with synchronized movement between these midfielders to outnumber Getafe centrally. And so we see that here with Rodrigo De Paul having been able to push up, taking advantage of the fact that Griezmann has pulled towards his left-hand side and Lino has dropped, creating that potential space for De Paul. Again, this being against that 4-4-2 or 4-2-3-1 shape, with Mayoral having dropped as Latasa tries to cut the pitch. Atletico Madrid decide to retreat to Oblak and pass out towards the right-hand side, instead choosing the safer option and trying to pass into their wing-back retreating, of course tracked, with the hope that as Getafe narrow towards that side, it will create space far side for the likes of Lino, Hermoso, and preferably Riquelme. Of course, in this shape, the likes of Riquelme and Llorente are meant to be the outlets, the attacking threats. Unfortunately for Atletico Madrid, they're unable to advance, and we see Getafe's throw in to Mata in an attacking position, and he's able to swing a ball in towards the near post for Latasa. Latasa, who's an absolutely dominating aerial presence. Even better for us, we get to see Getafe's 2-4-4 shape. On this occasion, Latasa is positioned more towards the near post, typically in open play. He's constantly trying to pull towards the back post, always looking to be in the blind spot. Whereas Mayoral typically floats in between the lines, looking to be more of a short passing option, or alternatively making himself an option in behind. Of course, this is Atleti, so despite the fact that they're playing with the slightly maligned Depay leading the line, where they potentially have an option to counterattack, they sought to do so. Of course, with the most dangerous counterattacking runner being Riquelme. So from Getafe's attack, Oblak was able to claim possession, and sometimes he did throw short. Instead, on this occasion, he does try and throw over the Getafe press and over that 3-2-4-1, except on this occasion, it's more of the diamond rather than the box. So skipping ahead, we get to see Atletico Madrid in their 3-2-5 shape against Getafe in their 4-4-2. I don't want to overemphasize the point, but Depay wasn't particularly mobile on this occasion. He does try and link with the rest of his midfield and defensive unit, but neither he nor the other forwards were able to take advantage of Getafe's aggressive high line, which almost always caught Atletico Madrid runners offside. Perhaps the need to play these longer passes makes one question just how influential the more creative forces for Atleti in Griezmann, Rodrigo De Paul and Lino were this game. Moving to the 17th minute, where we get to see Getafe building in a 2-4 or 2-3 midfield shape, with Maximovic being the facilitator for that. So at least on paper, he's the left-sided centre midfielder, but in possession, he basically plays as the right back, which gives Iglesias and Greenwood and later Damian Suarez greater flexibility. So we can see him starting to drop into that right back position, whilst Iglesias is then able to push higher up the pitch. Again, notice Mayoral between the lines floating. I have very little to say about Atletico Madrid's 5-3-2 press because it was more of a deterrent of short goal kicks, in that opportunistically they pushed higher up the pitch to try and force Getafe into playing those longer balls, looking to try and hit Latasa, but they didn't really commit as intensely as one would expect to try and actually win possession back. Okay, so we can see some of that 2-3 shape with Maximovic as the right back now, Mia as the number 6, our right back now as more of a creative player in a central role, with Greenwood holding with Atletico Madrid's 5-3-2 having forced Getafe into retreating on their left-hand side. Getafe, as they did throughout the game, just rotated from that side towards the more free space. And so we get to see some clever movement here with Greenwood dropping as we have a runner running in behind to try and create space for Greenwood if he's able to turn here. Again, Latasa pulling out towards that left-hand side. And with the help of the runner and Greenwood's deft control, his agility, which was a problem throughout the game, despite his poor passing, it created momentum for Getafe, as in this scenario, leading to a whipped cross from that left-hand side, which unfortunately is not capitalized on. Okay, so moving on to the 55th 61st minute. Fortunately for Getafe, Savic was dismissed, replaced by Azpilicueta, forcing Atletico Madrid into this 5-3-1 shape with Griezmann leading the line and Diego Simeone pulling Riquelme out towards this right wing back position in the hope that his wonder of a right foot can cross from the right hand side during an attacking transition, creating opportunities, which it did twice this game. Getafe, for their part, adjusted their shape to a 3-1 midfield and at its most aggressive, a 2-1. So just as earlier, they continued to rotate possession from the right hand channel to the left hand channel, forcing the three in midfield for Atletico Madrid to cover some serious ground, which inevitably later in the game leads to Atletico Madrid having to hold a much deeper line. Speaking on Atletico Madrid's shape, we still have that back five with the midfield trying to cover towards the near side, but the far side of that midfield tried to stay more central, as we see here with the Paul's position. And then when Griezmann is dropped into that left centre midfielder position, his positioning is actually even more extreme, positioning almost as a left midfielder. One believes in the hopes that it will prevent or act as a deterrent for any of these switches towards Greenwood, who was becoming a greater and greater threat as the game wore on. The positioning of the far-sided wide midfielder for Atletico Madrid was used in this way as the game wore on. For fear of repeating myself, Getafe, as in the other scenarios, rotated possession, occasionally taking shots from distance centrally, but as per usual, whipping in crosses for others to attack in the box. Okay, so as I mentioned, we moved to that 3-1 midfield shape. We still are keeping that width, whether it's with Greenwood or the fullback in Iglesias or Suarez, and then on the far side, our left back. As Getafe are looking to try and salvage something from this game, they're overloading the centre of the park more and more. And just as I showed in the earlier scenario, Atletico Madrid have that back five with those wider midfielders trying to position quite wide rather than narrow with Koke. And at this point, they've got their main striker in Alvaro Morata on the pitch, but rather than positioning him high up the pitch, he instead actually drops to become a left-sided centre midfielder to help Koke manage that space between Griezmann and Llorente. Of course, this helps defensively, but it meant that with Alvaro Morata as deep as he was, not providing a focal point, Atletico Madrid's counterattacks were vanishingly rare, as they had to solo dribble through tons of counter pressure, which allowed Getafe to push as high as they can with their deepest lying outfield players, reducing the distance between their deepest lying players and their most advanced attackers, and of course increasing the accuracy of the inevitable crosses. And so with all that rotation throughout the game, Atletico Madrid being ground down, the difficulties that the midfield were having in both covering across but then also being able to get out, Atletico Madrid are pulled deeper and deeper against a growing number of players in the box, and so it's unsurprising that Getafe were able to get something out of this game. And with that, thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, consider sharing it on social media, subscribing, leaving a comment about how I can improve the videos or what match I should have a look at next. And with that, we're out.